received this note from a friend. Dear Pastor Bob, I live with rage and anger every second of the day. I served 2 tours in Iraq as a Marine, and I've had this constant, unbearable anger since, especially when things or people upset me. My anger intensifies more than most of these situations. PTSD and depression are very serious conditions. A lot of my veteran brothers are committing suicide, 22 a day, because of the same anger related issues. That just adds to my frustration. I was wondering if you could do a podcast on this type of rage and anger. There's a lot more people like me out there suffering the same way. Well, I want to say, first of all, that this is a very serious problem, and it's not one that I am personally qualified to deal with. So I want to say that, first of all, that I don't intend to be a therapist in this area or have all the answers. I would like to comment on just a couple things. First of all, you need some help. You need some help from people who know how to help. And I'll talk about that in just a minute, how to select somebody. But it is really bigger than you are, and you do need some help. I want to offer some foundational thoughts too. You know, we talk a lot about the Holy Spirit in my podcast, and when you're dealing with rage and anger, the other end of that spectrum is the Holy Spirit's fruit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. And I realize that whenever we allow the Holy Spirit to increase, the other things decrease. And it's a lifelong thing to be able to allow Him to do that. Now, I understand that it's complex, and I don't want to give a simplistic answer to a very complex problem. Now, I think that is a foundation, but I think there's more. These days, there's some pretty amazing work being done actually with PTSD. Um, the the science of neuroplasticity fascinates me. Um, there are clinics around the world now that offer help with connecting your neural pathways, helping to connect your neural pathways in the brain, and they've had some phenomenal success with PTSD. Um, there's a great book out. I think it's called The Science of Neuroplasticity. And there's a chapter, I believe, or I don't know how much, but I remember reading quite a bit about it in there, where it talks about neuroplasticity being used for PTSD and the success rate with it, which was seemed to be fairly high. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. I don't even own the book anymore, but I would recommend maybe looking into the practice of neuroplasticity. I know here in Nashville there's a clinic that deals with it, and I know there are around the world. So it's worth looking into. And, you know, sometimes our neural pathways kind of get stuck, and there's some ways to kind of dislodge that and get them flowing again and get them sparking again. And I think it's fascinating. You know, there's so many ways that God moves and God works, and sometimes He works through doctors, and sometimes He doesn't, by the way. And sometimes He works through some of these things that seem a little strange, and yet, you know, how cool that this is the way our body works. So I want to offer that to you, and I want to say, first of all, that you need more help than I can give you. I'm not a psychologist. Um, and I and I think that, of course, the place to start is to allow the Holy Spirit to begin to work in your life in this area, and His fruit becomes stronger than the problems. But that's not an overnight fix, I understand. We spend our whole lives trying to allow the Holy Spirit to take over. And in the meantime, find some good help. And not every not everyone who's ready to help, even professionally, is good at it. I want to I want to say that on the onset. I think there's a lot of frustration among our veteran brothers with psychologists who aren't able to help, who haven't helped. So I would look for people who have been helped, people that have gone through severe PTSD, and listen to their success stories and what they used, and who helped them to get well. And I would Google it, find out more. The book called The Science of Neuroplasticity, I think, is worth reading. Very interesting um, way of handling this and other problems with the brain. And just when they take pictures of the brain, they find out that there are parts that are kind of black, that they're not firing. And of course, when they begin to fire again, the left and the right hemisphere of the brain both have different functions, and they need to begin to communicate together. And if they're not, then we have, well, things like PTSD. And there's a lot of reasons why your brain gets stuck. Anyway, again, I'm not a psychologist, so please get some help. God bless you. Have a great day.